Hello and well met. This is Layman with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I'm going to go over the D&D 5e stat block import tool that's built into Fantasy Grounds. This is a fairly new feature. It's been around for a few years. It's been updated to accommodate the newer 2024 Monsters of the Multiverse NPC stat block import requirements. So essentially the NPC stat blocks are going through a transition. They're just slightly different. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but just wanted to be aware that there is a difference, a slight difference. But nonetheless, we're going to get into the actual import tool. So this is assuming that you have at least a standard license and you have like the SRD. You don't necessarily have to have all the rule books to do this. So this is an import function. There are other ways to edit NPCs, but and to create them, but this is a third option. I put the links in the description for the Atlassian guide that talks about NPCs and how they're formatted. There's also another video that Zacchaeus put out a year or two ago that talks about the same thing. So essentially what I'm going to be doing is I've opened up the NPC record data type window, and that's it under campaigns. And in the modules area, all I have loaded is basically the SRD. So in my library, go to modules. That's all I need. I don't need anything else. If you want more inspiration or that, then you can get other stuff to load up, like the monster manual. So what I'm going to be doing is take this import text, open that up, and this is the interface for the dialogue. So on the left-hand side is where you're going to put the stat block information. If you have any background, lore, descriptions, anything like that, links, that can be put on the right-hand side. So the main key here is your source. So source would be PDF, website, web portal, or anything like that that's going to provide you with a stat block. What really matters is how the text is formatted. So if I go into, this is D&D Beyond, and this, you don't have to necessarily use this, but I know that this format is pretty good. It's 99% of the time it's going to work. So I want to get something rather more complex. So I'm going to use probably like a Drow Wizard, or here's a Drow Arachnomancer, a Spider Wizard, essentially. So here is the Arachnomancer stat block, okay? So what I want to do is copy and paste the text that has to do with the stat block only first. So I'm going to take and left click and drag all of this content minus the image there, right click, copy, and then go into Fantasy Grounds and single left click on the left side here, hit Control V, which is your paste function, and you'll see the stat block here. The main thing that goes wrong with stat blocks, if you're going to get them from another source, is the way that the NPC ability acronyms and the ability scores are arranged. There's only two formats that it will accept. Either this format, which is the vertical, or the horizontal one, where you have strength all the way across, and then you have the numbers underneath it. So I've done articles on this. I have a link to it in the description, which kind of explains the two different NPC stat block formats. And that's essentially very critical. The other thing that typically goes wrong is the feats or the features. They don't have a period after them, or they have a hyphen, or they have some kind of weird other punctuation. If that's the case, they will not parse correctly. The other thing is spells have a certain format, so the spellcasting statement needs to say spellcasting, and then it has a statement afterwards, and then there's a certain format the way this is supposed to be arranged. If you want to get kind of a preview of what the text will look like, you can right click and go to clean up text. Fantasy Grounds automatically will clean up text when you import, but this kind of gives you a preview of what the text is going to look like before it gets parsed. On the right hand side, if you have any auxiliary information or anything that you want to add, like background, that sort of thing, what I normally do is I'll just make a copy of the title. You don't have to, but that's normally how I do it. And then below here, I'm going to paste anything I think I want extra. So that could be stuff you're adding or stuff that comes from your source. So in the case of this particular NPC, it just has a little blurb here about the spellcasters. And I'm going to right click and hit copy. This is just a little bit of lore, really not a whole lot there. Some NPCs have more, some have less, some don't have any at all. So on the under here, I'm going to hit Control V, and that takes care of the text. So once you're happy with the text importing that you're going to be using, so the source is good, then you can go ahead and hit import. And the import mode, the only one that's supported now is the 2022 Monsters of the Multiverse format. This will take older stat blocks and the newer stat blocks, so don't worry about that too much. So go ahead and hit import. Once that's done, presto, Bob's your uncle. You have your stat block in Fantasy Grounds, and it's all there. The biggest part of this, the takeaway here, is the formatting of the text that you're taking it from. You may have to massage that, you may have to edit it, you might have to fight with that, but once you have it in the proper format, it's so much easier to put it in Fantasy Grounds. And then you have your notes section with this nice little summary. It just looks beautiful. And then at this point, if you have artwork, you can associate a link here to the NPC if you have the art that you want for sharing with your players. And then you can also click this pictures and tokens and add your own tokens and map art. So that's basically the functionality. Trying to keep this short and sweet, but there are other caveats to it. But the main takeaway here is the format of the text that you're taking it from. If it's not right, or if it's off, or if it's missing one little period here, it's not going to work right. So anyhow, hopefully this is helpful. And again, I put the resources in the links after the video. Have a good day. Bye-bye.